and welcome to the afternoon edition of The Great Give at thegreatgive.org. And this is Alan Appelli, your host for this next 22 minutes with the charming Gillian Crowley
That's correct.
at Fish. So Fish. So Gillian, welcome to the Great Give. And you can say anything you want about your organization, but I would advise you to first tell us about the acronym.
Thank you very much, Alan. I'm delighted to be here, and we are so proud of having created a backronym for Fish because, we've been in existence for 50 years, and it's only been the last few years that we came up with food in service to the homebound.
Oh, I love it.
It's pretty concise. We serve people who are unable to get to the regular network of food pantries throughout the area. So basically, maybe what we once in a less enlightened era might have called people who were shut in.
Shut it. And that is very much of to borrow a phrase from the business world, it's a niche businesses. That's a smallish group of people, is it, who are in very serious need? How many folks, and where are they geographically?
Well, the Fish service area is New Haven, West Haven, and Hamden. And we serve all neighborhoods in those three towns. At this time, year to date, Fish has served about 1,050 individuals, about 560 households. On a regular basis, we deliver to about 475 households every month, and that comprises about 900 people. So that's our normal workload, but of course, people cycle in and out of the program for any number of reasons. And one of the things we're terribly proud of are two dual commitments. One is to the most high quality and nutritious food that we can possibly source. And the second is, to maintain the capacity to be able to accept new clients in real time. So Fish operates without a waiting list, which is pretty incredible considering that we are a tiny private charity, if you want to use that word. We receive virtually very little government funding, with the exception of a little bit from the city of New Haven and West Haven.
And the qualifications are simply need. And do you have to, if somebody is listening and knows somebody who might benefit from the service, how does one go about? You just show up, but the person can't show up because it's difficult. So how do you meet them initially?
So Fish is a couple of things. We're a fairly well-known entity because we've been around for 50 years. Our focus on the homebound is relatively more recent, let's say in the last 5 years. So we've done a very concerted outreach campaign to other service providers in these three towns that we serve to make sure that when they encounter people who are homebound, that they know about our services. We're also part of the 211 helpline.
Okay.
We are also kind of by word of mouth. A lot of our clients come to us because other people in their family or people in their building, and quite common is that their neighbor might receive the groceries. And so in order to qualify for Fish services, basically a person is low income and they are unable for any number of physical or mental challenges to be able to easily leave their home and walk to a local food pantry to pick up what they need.
And they receive a delivery if they are become a client of Fish. They receive a delivery once a week or once a month, or how does it work out? Because if they're homebound.
Thank you, Alan. So the way we structured the program is that we deliver once a month 2 weeks worth of groceries. So for each person in that household that we're serving, we're delivering about 45 pounds of food. And we have done a fair amount of program evaluation and querying of our clients, and we understand that the food does last them approximately 2 weeks. So we never intend to be anybody's sole source of food. We supplement whatever other methods they have for getting food in the house and that they have traditionally done. So many of our clients are on SNAP. Many of our clients have very greatly reduced pensions or Social Security. And so we feel that one of the key services that we provide to this very vulnerable population is not just the predictability of the food, but the freeing up of the household budget, so that sometimes We can create a little space there so people don't have to make such tough decisions about, is it my electric bill, or am I going to be able to eat this month? Or is it my medications, or am I going to have the proper food? So those are really the clients that we serve. And basically, one of the simplest ways for people to enroll in the FISH program is to call our hotline. And our hotline is published all over the place, and it's 203 503 0106. And I'll say that again,
Please do.
203 503 0106.
And since we're at a moment of giving out numbers and other information, if you want to support this, what obviously is an anchoring service in the lives of hundreds and hundreds of people,
Yes.
you go to thegreatgive.org and go down the list to F's and pick out FISH, and
Or just search by the keyword fish and we will pop right up.
and you're the only fish to be caught in the list, I guess.
I think that there is also loaves and fishes, but they are also a phenomenal organization. But we are Fish of Greater New Haven. That's correct.
And what distinguishes you, just to reprise what you said a moment ago, is while there are lots of pantries, not lots, but there's a lot of food need out there and food
Yeah.
insecurity. The niche that you fulfill is these are for people who have great difficulties in getting out.
And it's so true, Alan. I mean, that's a wonderful way to summarize it. You know, we look at the incoming new clients that we enroll, and the stories that we hear are just so compelling and so heartbreaking, and inspiring. So,
Can you share one with us that has a touch of each of those qualities?
So one of the amazing things that we've started to do is track the people that leave our program. They leave for any number of reasons. But we've started tracking carefully what we call voluntary removals. And so I'm going to give you a story that illustrates the point of a voluntary removal. We received a phone call from a woman a couple of years ago, and she was very late stage cancer. And she said that she was going to have to move in with her daughter and her grandkids. And they were very troubled and very concerned about this because the daughter was barely making ends meet as a single mom. And it was a real source of strain. And so our limited resources, of course, can't serve everyone that has a need, but we know that we can help a lot of people. So we made an arrangement with this woman that we're going to deliver groceries for you, Mrs. Jones. And, you know, obviously your daughter and the kids are kind of making it work on their own, but we're going to make sure we stock you up really good so that you won't be a burden to the family. She called us back 5 months later, and she said, hey, I want to let you know, we figured this out, and we're going to be okay. And we would never have gotten there if you hadn't helped us for those few months to let us have that wiggle room to see that we could make this work. So I want you to help the next person. And I can't thank you enough for what you did for me for these months. These are the stories we hear on a regular basis. And it's really, it's inspiring and it's overwhelming. So it's an interesting position to be in. You know, sometimes we have to look at what is the best way that we can deliver these services to people in need. And so certainly the commitment to nutrition is a huge part of it. But part of it is also making sure that the people who really need our services know how to get a hold of us. And that's why we have a great protocol. You know, we partner with, for instance, Columbus House, the VA, Yale New Haven Health, Project Access. I mean, you name them all. Cornell Scott. We receive referrals from those agencies on a regular basis, and we serve them very happily. But we also have people that call us and say, your volunteer was at our apartment building and delivering stuff to my neighbor. I have this phone number, 203-503-0106. I need some food. And we take them through an intake process. And we've designed a very really useful tool called a vulnerability index so that we can take some of the subjective nature out of how we qualify a person to be brought into the program. And this VI scale was designed with a board member who's a PhD and myself and a key volunteer so that we can have a dialogue with people to find out what is your barrier to access to food. And so I just spoke with a gentleman yesterday who told me he was 74 straight up and his neighbor was getting food. He sounded as robust as more than me. He sounded but it turned out after I dug and dug and dug, this gentleman can't leave the house by his doctor's orders without a cane or a walker.
You can't tell anything about the condition of a person by their voice. One of the things I've learned over the years.
And your neighbor can't tell if you're homebound. So sometimes we get that too. Well, why are you helping my cousin? And we always laugh. We say, listen, our program helps those who have established a need, and we're very comfortable with that. So,
well, if those of you who are listening to this afternoon's edition of The Great Give here on WNHH 103.5 FM, and if you are moved, as I am, by some of these stories from Gillian Crowley of Fish, go to thegreatgive.org and go down to the F's and give to that wonderful organization. So what's in a bag? You mentioned earlier that, I think when people hear about food being delivered, from pantries or from organizations like yours, they think of, canned goods. That they think of peanut butter. They think of pastas. What would a client find in a typical bag?
well, those what we call pantry staples, and being the only organization that delivers to people's homes as a pantry in this area, um, we also seek to really supplement those deliveries with other extremely nutritious products. So we have a ton of fresh produce, and we have developed a very intricate network of donors and big box stores, retailers, Trader Joe's, BJ's in North Haven. They all give us excess of what they're not selling at that moment. So we have a significant produce contribution to it. And then we also deliver with each delivery a bag of frozen meats and proteins. And those are anywhere from pollock fillets to chicken breasts to prepared shredded pork or any number of protein sources. So we know that the delivery, while we simultaneously have a very high mind towards nutrition and minimally processed foods, we also know that eating is a pleasure. And so we are still on the animal-based protein bandwagon, and we provide people with meat of all different types. But we also end up, having wonderful things like guacamole that's donated from BJ's, or single-serve portions of butternut squash in a microwave-ready container. I mean, we get these things in big quantities, so that's why that's what I'm pulling from my memory. But people find that they really can construct a series of meals pretty adequately from what we provide every month.
Yeah, I'm getting a little hungry actually listening to this, and I like the way you talk about food as not a kind of life preserver that's being thrown out to people, but as well, as we know, such an important part of life, and it's so integrated with health, with family, with the whole domestic economy. So I would be remiss if I didn't call on you to perform your jingle or poem that everybody is required to do here on thegreatgive.org. Although in many ways I would just love to keep talking about fish, but let's do both. Why don't we, in the time we have left, have you recite or do your dance or whatever you were intending to do, and then when you're done, let's just talk for another minute or two about the people who deliver the food, the whole volunteer.
That's one of my favorite topics.
Okay, so introduce your work that you're doing in order to promote support for fish.
Thank you.
And then we will carry on after the performance.
So this is a Billy Collins poem, and it's called While Eating a Pear.
We love Billy Collins here.
So I've heard. I chose it well, all right? Okay. After we have finished here, and the world will continue its quiet turning, and the years will still transpire, but now without their numbers, and the days and months will pass without the names of Norse and Roman gods. Time will go by the way it did before history, pure and unnoticed. A mystery that arose between the sun and the moon before there was a word for dawn, or noon, or midnight. Before there were names for the earth's uncountable things, when fruit hung anonymously from scattered groves of trees, light on one smooth green side, shadow on the other. Billy Collins.
Well, I can imagine a fish client either reading that themselves or experiencing that as they dive into some of that butternut squash and pollock. Who delivers these basics to people throughout town?
It's probably the most inspiring part of the fish story, honestly. We are a completely volunteer-driven organization.
You're the only.
I'm part-time.
And you're
We have
part-time, and you're the
one full-time employee. We manage all of these hundreds and hundreds of deliveries on it. Well, almost 400 deliveries a month with one full-time employee who's our program manager.
right.
And I'm part-time as the ED. So our volunteers come from all walks of life, but really the key component are what we call our partner agencies. And all of our grocery packing and about 70% of all our deliveries are carried out by partner agencies that serve the cognitively impaired.
Mm.
And so we are such a perfect fit for these organizations because we provide this real family environment that has a tremendous amount of appreciation and respect. But also the actual work that is being conducted is a real success model for people that have faced challenges in some areas of cognition. So, packing a grocery bag and matching these and working with your buddy and counting and putting them in the bags properly so there's room to put that lovely produce on the top.
So one aspect of the volunteer work is the creation of the bags themselves, but then
Yes.
that's one side of it.
And then the deliveries are carried out by those teams as well. And about 30% of our deliveries are carried out by people like you and me in the community who
And
know the work that Fish does and they just want to come and help.
that's right. And I remember more than once being at some aldermanic meeting or some other gathering, and Sal DeCola, the Morris Cove alderman, longtime alderman,
Our guardian angel, Sal.
he said, "Excuse me, as fascinating as this conversation is, I got to go deliver some bags of food." That's
Sal
how
and Frank Douglas and
Frank Douglas is not.
Alder Wingate. I mean, these.
So
these
how
alders-
many alders deliver for Fish?
Well, if you
That's
count
3.
year round, because many come just at Thanksgiving, but probably at least half a dozen. Anafesta's helped us. I don't want to leave anyone out, but yes, we've had tremendous support from the aldermanic community, and I think it's also important because we're again a resource for them. We accept referrals from
them.
anybody in the city. It doesn't mean that the person automatically gets enrolled in the program, but we certainly will call them and take them through the process.
Well, I have never felt so good about the Board of Aldermen
Well, they are
as I do right now from having heard that.
they've been tremendously supportive of Fish, and we're really, really grateful for it. I think they recognize the great work we do and that we address that problem directly. Food insecurity, you deliver food.
Well, Jelen Crawley, thank you so much for coming to The Great Give on WNHH 103.5 FM. This is the second day of this wonderful event that supports all the nonprofits doing artistic, basic, life-saving work
Yes.
across the whole spectrum.
So I'd like to just throw in, if I could,
Please.
we can pack a bag of groceries for $9. So anyone that's out there listening that wants to help us feed a few people, $9 will get a bag of groceries into the hands of somebody who really needs it.
There you go.
Thank
Get
you.
that $9 and go to thegreatgive.org. And thank you, Ms. Crawley. And we'll take a little break and come back in a moment.
Thank you.